Media companies are officially private entities. In recent years, they have ceased to be private with the enactment and their historical use of Section 230, which profoundly protects them from liability. Once they got Section 230, they're not private companies anymore.
This case is one of the most important First Amendment cases in my lifetime, and I did the Pentagon Papers case and the I Am Curious Yellow case. I argued cases in the Supreme Court. This is really important because it presents a great constitutional paradox. It pits freedom of speech against the First Amendment. Wow, how could that be? There's no doubt that the media giants are denying President Trump his free speech and me, my free speech. They've taken down a debate between me and Bobby Kennedy, and they're also denying the free speech rights of people who want to listen to their views. So free speech is clearly on the side of the plaintiffs. But the defendant, the media giants, are claiming they have a First Amendment right to deny free speech. They have a First Amendment right to censor. And the courts are going to have to resolve this conflict between free speech on the one hand and the First Amendment on the other hand. First time in American history, this conflict has been presented. The current situation is absolutely intolerable. You have these giant media telling us what we can see, what we can hear, and being exempted by congressional legislation. And then we have them claiming their rights under the First Amendment because they're a private company. It's unacceptable. And we already know there are at least a couple of justices who are prepared to take this issue on. So I suspect that we're going to get this case to the United States Supreme Court, and it's going to be one of the most important cases. If I was still teaching at Harvard, I would be giving a course solely on this lawsuit. That's how important it is.
You know, that answered one of my next questions is, do you think it's going to make it to the Supreme Court, which you clearly do believe? But I want to ask this, and forgive me my naivete when it comes to the law, but we've talked about this in the past, and I was thinking about it prior to this. We've talked about that baker who didn't want to bake a wedding cake for a gay couple, and he said, well, it's a private business. I don't have to do this. And the court then forced them to bake the cake, right? So how is this different? Because they're saying, we don't want to let him on our platform. Wouldn't the court have to say, well, you have to? I mean, I don't, maybe I'm not interpreting the case right.
Well, the court hasn't decided that case yet. It sent it back on a technicality. I suspect the court will decide that the baker doesn't have to bake the cake. And the social media will seize on that. And they'll say, if the baker doesn't have to bake the cake, we don't have to put Donald Trump on our social media platform. Both sides will cite that case. The irony is you have this conflict between what the First Amendment was intended to protect, the open marketplace of ideas, free speech. That's clearly on the side of the plaintiffs. But the other side is claiming, but the First Amendment also gives us the right to censor. There's a leading case involving the Miami Herald many years ago where they refused to publish a letter to the editor correcting a mistake they had made. And the Supreme Court said the right of free press includes the right of the press to decide what not to publish. So this is not an easy case. Nobody can predict for you today how this case is going to come out. The right wants it to come out one way. The left wants it to come out another way. I'm a liberal Democrat, strong proponent of freedom of speech. I can tell you right here and now, I know for absolute sure that nobody knows how this case is going to come out.
So let's be real, though. These big tech giants, they have a lot of money to fight this Trump lawsuit. How can the president and his allies succeed when these teams are just flooded with resources?
Well, I've taken on a lot of very, very wealthy clients and beaten them, a lot of very, very wealthy defendants. If you have the law and the facts on your side, it's more important than having money on your side. And of course, the Trump team and the people who are defending them have enough money, enough resources. They have great lawyers on their side. I know the lawyers who are defending President Trump, and they are terrific lawyers, and they're as good as any lawyers on the other side. So this is a case that won't be decided by the quality of the lawyers or by the amount of money each side has. It's a case that will be decided very, very unpredictably by the Supreme Court, and that will probably have 7 different opinions because there are so many difficult issues in this case. issues that the court has never confronted before.
Hey, Professor, I don't have a ton of time left, but I saw something on Twitter that caught my eye. One journalist pointed out that the Trump team is suing these tech giants in Florida, and the terms of service say that they have to be sued in California. Well, here's my question. Since Trump isn't actually a customer because they banned him, does that matter?
I don't think so. I don't think that the contract is binding on somebody who's not a person who has signed on to the contract. You know, I've been writing about this issue for a long time. My newest book is called The Case Against the New Censors, How to Protect Against Big Tech. Why do I call them the new censors? Because the old censors were the government. That was easy. The First Amendment and free speech were on the same side. This time you have free speech on one side, and at least the other side argues they have the First Amendment on their side. That's why it's the new censors. That's why it's so important. That's why it's so difficult, and that's why it's so hard to predict how it will come out.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to reading the book because every time we do one of these segments, I learn so much. So I appreciate you coming on and breaking this down. It's great to know what a big case this is going to be, and hearing it from you adds that credibility. So thank you as always.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.